The Hobbit, which takes place 60 years before The Lord of the Rings, is about Bilbo Baggins. Together with the dwarves and the wizard Gandalf, he sets out on a quest to defeat an evil dragon. Although Peter Jackson seemed the most suitable candidate to direct the film adaptation of The Hobbit, he was initially reluctant to sign on to such a huge project, having already given many years of his life to Tolkien's adaptation. Jackson had another problem: the characters. The 13 Dwarves is one of the reasons The Hobbit terrified me, and why I was sure I wouldn't take it on, he noted, though he changed his mind when filming was underway. After Lord of the Rings, Jackson was forced to sue New Line Film Company to get his share of the profits, which apparently made it a bit difficult for him to work on The Hobbit. However, as he told Entertainment Weekly in 2006, The Hobbit is not involved in a lawsuit. Bilbo Baggins doesn't work for New Line's accounting department, and I certainly but blame him for our strife. As a result, MGM Film Company took over filming, and in April 2008, Guillermo del Toro was hired to direct the movie, while Jackson stayed on as a producer. There are a bunch of dwarves in the movie. They are Thorin, Dwalin, Balin, Kili, Fili, Dori, Nori, Ori, Oin, Gloin, Bifur, Bofur, and Bombur. Some elements of The Hobbit had already been created for The Lord of the Rings, however, which made the job easier. Also, the sets could be reused. "We kept the miniatures of Rivendell in storage," Jackson said, "and the sets of Bilbo's house were saved as well. What's more, a large version of the Baggins set ended up in Jackson's possession, and the director used it as a guest house." After Del Toro officially worked on the project for 2 years, a series of delays and false starts, due in large part to MGM Studios' financial problems, forced him to reconsider his involvement. On May 28, 2010, he reluctantly left the project. His hard work was not in vain. "We created all the creatures," he said. "We created the sets and closet. We did the animation and planned very long action sequences. We have scary scenes and funny scenes, and we're very, very prepared." So, all the new director had to do was piece together what he had left behind. In October 2010, New Line Cinema and Warner Bros. Teamed up to produce The Hobbit, with Peter Jackson directing the film. A filming start date was announced, February 2011. Due to disagreements between the unions and the crew in New Zealand, the country's Prime Minister John Key was forced to smooth corners in negotiations with Warner Bros. And give assurances that filming would continue. In The Lord of the Rings, to show the hobbits and dwarves, Peter Jackson used forced perspective. That is, 2 actors in the frame were next to each other, but in fact, they were far apart. Thus, there was an illusion that allowed to shoot actors of the same height so that they look completely different in height. In The Hobbit, such a technique at the beginning of the movie was not used. Instead, actors whose characters were of different heights were filmed separately. First, they filmed Ian McKellen as Gandalf all alone in Bilbo's house, and then filmed all the other actors. And already in post-production, they were combined into one frame. Ian McKellen, such a situation was very upset, and he longed for the old shooting. The crew decided to cheer him up, and during a break, snuck into Ian McKellen's tent and decorated it with souvenirs from Lord of the Rings. The budget for each movie is estimated at $250 million, $500 million total. It was originally erroneously reported that the budget would be $500 million for each movie, which sparked outrage from experts, convinced that the film would lead the studio to financial ruin. The Lord of the Rings team was also reunited, with Weta Workshop and Weta Digital providing the magical special effects, Howard Shore writing the music, and Fran Walsh working on the script. Despite the fact that the movie features an abundance of computer graphics that weren't in The Lord of the Rings, Thranduil's pet was real. True, it was not a moose, but a horse named Moose. There were many changes in the Hobbit trilogy compared to The Lord of the Rings. The most unexpected was the change in the Hobbit's legs. In The Lord of the Rings, the actors only had to wear prosthetic feet, so they were free to put them on and take them off. But in The Hobbit, it was no longer just feet, but almost the whole legs up to the knees, so the actors did not remove the prosthetics until the end of the shooting day. The most important question that has plagued the producers since a director was finally found was, who will play Bilbo Baggins? In October 2010, Peter Jackson said, "Despite the various rumors and speculations surrounding the role, there has always been only one Bilbo Baggins for us," Jackson announced. "It's very rare in your career to come across an actor you realize was born for the role, but that's exactly what happened when I met Martin Freeman." Martin Freeman was originally committed to the BBC to appear in the Sherlock series, but managed to coordinate his schedule. In a strange twist, there are 4 actors associated with Sherlock Holmes working on The Hobbit. In addition to Freeman, there's Benedict Cumberbatch, Stephen Fry, and Christopher Lee, who has played the roles of Sherlock, Mycroft, and Sir Henry Baskerville in his career. Christopher Lee again played the role of Saruman, but the elderly actor didn't want to fly to New Zealand for it. The scenes featuring him were filmed at Pinewood Studios. There are few female characters in The Hobbit, and that may explain why a new character has been invented for Evangeline Lilly, an elfess from Lycolesia named Toriel. The dragon Smaug will be portrayed using motion capture technology, as will Gollum, and played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who will lend his voice and movements to Smaug. The orc Azog will be played by actor Conan Stevens, and is 216 centimeters tall. One of the most atmospheric scenes in the first movie is the one in which Thorin fought Azog, and only with the help of a kind of shield was able to reverse the outcome of the battle. During the filming of this scene, the actor Richard Armitage accidentally hit himself hard on the face with this shield and bit his lower lip through. This moment was not included in the film, but you can see Richard's injured lip, which is very swollen and stained with blood. Andy Serkis not only plays the role of Gollum, he also works as a second unit director. Sylvester McCoy told the Birmingham Mail newspaper, "I met Peter Jackson when we were in New Zealand on tour with King Lear. He invited Ian McKellen and me for lunch. Peter Jackson's house in Wellington is a real magical land. It's got secret passages and everything. He has a real Bilbo house in his garden. And that's where we had lunch, so I had lunch with Gandalf at Bilbo Baggins' house." In the movie, Gandalf talks about which wizards came with him to Middle-earth. He mentions some blue wizards, whose names he supposedly forgot. In fact, he did not forget. It's just that the studio did not have the rights to those works, in which the blue wizards, Alatar and Palando, appeared, so Peter Jackson had to get out of the situation. "After 10 years, I'm very happy to be working with Orlando Bloom again," Jackson admitted. "I look older and he doesn't." We still don't know how Legolas will appear in the movie, but we assume he will be involved in the scenes in which Bilbo and the dwarves are taken captive by his father Thranduil. The actors playing the dwarves include 2 English, 2 Scots, 2 Irish and 7 New Zealanders. Jed Brophy. Nori has previously played an orc in the Lord of the Rings trilogy among other cameo roles.